Hey, Ottilie, have you ever been on a cruise and thought, man, this sure isn't crusty and smelly enough? Or have you ever been to a convention where a really awkward and kind of creepy person keeps talking to you and they won't leave you alone and thought, the only thing that could make this situation better is if we were in an environment where I literally can't leave? What if we just, oh my, oh. Guys, I fucking love conventions. The atmosphere, the vibes, the vendors, the activities, the displays, and the people. I'm kidding, of course, because to me, the people are honestly one of my favorite parts of going to conventions. I go to conventions quite often and have been to a lot of different ones. Hell, for a while, my entire life revolved around Anime Expo in LA. Literally, starting in July, I would spend the entire year planning and preparing for Anime Expo. Then, on the week of the 4th of July, I would head out to LA with my friends and spend 5 days at the convention. Then, on the last day, I would buy my badge for next year, head home, and immediately start the planning process again. Conventions were my life for a while, and I still go to them as much as I possibly can. I worked with a vendor for a few years and would travel with him to other shows, which is how I actually managed to see a lot of the smaller, kind of more obscure conventions. I've been to amazing cons, and I've seen some real stinkers, but one thing that can make or break a convention is the attendees. TFCon LA is by far the best convention I have ever been to, and yes, a big reason was because it was well organized and had a good vendor floor and decent panels, but a huge part of it is just because the Transformers community is so great. Not a single person I met there was toxic or unkind or felt like they were just miserable while being there. Hell, even all of the big YouTubers there, well, big as far as the Transformers community goes, even all of them just hung out in the common areas and encouraged people to go up and talk to them. No one really saw themselves as above anyone else or more of a fan than anyone else, because we were all there for the same thing. Then we have San Diego Comic-Con. This is the big one. When people say, I went to Comic-Con, and people just say the words Comic-Con when talking about a convention, they're talking about San Diego. It's one of the only conventions that doesn't need a qualifier when you're talking about its name. If you're going to Long Beach Comic-Con, you're going to have to specifically tell people, I'm going to Long Beach Comic-Con. But if you just say, I'm going to Comic-Con, people know immediately that means that you're going to San Diego. It's huge. It's a massive industry show. It has insane guests on their guest list every year. It has a massive exhibit and vendor hall. It gives you the opportunity to see world premieres of trailers and massive movie announcements. You can meet celebrities. You can see movie and TV props in person. You can grab Comic-Con exclusive merch for your favorite franchises. And it fucking sucks. San Diego Comic-Con is one of those conventions that when people ask me about going, I always tell them the same thing. Really want to go, then grab a one-day badge, show up, take a look around, do your best to try and enjoy yourself, and then you can go home and say you've been to Comic-Con before, and you never have to go again. It's one of those shows where it's neat to go just once just to see it, but then that's it. That is, if you can even get in the first place. Comic-Con has been basically impossible to get into for newcomers for a while now. Okay, so let's go to Anime Expo. Oh my god, it's literally in like 2 weeks. Let's click register. Oh, and there's still, I can just pick whatever day and how many tickets I want. Okay, that's cool. Yep, this is one of the biggest conventions in California, and about 2.5 weeks before the actual convention, you can still just come on the website and grab whatever ticket you want for whatever day. Oh, let's go to TFCon. Okay, tickets. Yep, here we go. Here's registration. Here's just all the tickets and how much they cost. Let's go to Long Beach Comic-Con. Let's waste our money on... Sorry, dude. Long Beach fucking sucks. Okay, let's go to San Diego Comic-Con. Oh, there's literally like a how to get your badge walkthrough. Registration. Oh, That's registration for conventions. It means buying your ticket. Oh, no? Registration for Comic-Con looks like it's registering to make a member ID with Comic-Con. You have to pick a member ID. Let's see, create, okay. This is, normally you have to create an account on, like, Eventbrite or whatever for Anime Expo, so this isn't a lot. Member ID account is not a badge purchase or badge registration. Please check badges section of our website for information on the badge sales. Oh, look. Attendee badge sales are now closed. Well, did they sell out? Oh, no. I just missed the window. They have 2 badge sales windows in the fall of the year before, with the first one only open to returning attendees, so people who have gone before and already, I assume, have a member ID. Badge sale date, okay. So you have to make you have to register to get a member ID, and then you have to camp on the site on Saturday, November 18th, to get into the badge sale thing to buy your badge. And the biggest problem with it is that it's become so big that it's fighting to not just completely implode on itself. Walking around San Diego Comic-Con, everyone just looks miserable, and no one really interacts with the community. People are just shoving past each other in this massive crowd to get to the next thing that they're going to and want everyone else out of their way. At Anime Expo or at TFCon, I would very often stop and just talk to people in the aisles of the vendor hall because they had something interesting in their hand that they bought, or they came to ask me about the cosplay that I'm wearing or something. And I would always stop to talk to them, and it would always be very friendly conversations. At Comic-Con, it doesn't feel like anyone wants to talk to each other because it's a waste of time, because there's so much going on that you just need to shove through the crowd to get to the next thing. The vendors also hate it, because many of the huge companies bring some big Comic-Con exclusive piece of merch. So instead of walking around the show floor and visiting all of the different vendors like a normal convention, all of the guests are just waiting in one single line for hours on end for some Comic-Con exclusive Zatanna dildo or whatever. But smaller vendors can't pull out because the convention is so huge and the vendor waiting list is so long that if a vendor decides to pull out and not re-register to sell at the next year's convention, they will likely never be able to get into the San Diego show again. With all that said, obviously things are going great for Comic-Con International. And so now it's time to take the next big step. Let me introduce you all to the Comic-Con San Diego cruise.
You serious?
Sailing from Tampa, Florida to Mexico's Cozumel Island, 4 days of cosplay, guests, and festering diseases. So sit back, relax, and pray that this convention doesn't fucking sink. So this was the last thing I was expecting to see come out of Comic-Con this year. So you can imagine my surprise when a TikTok ad of all things is how I found out about this. And my most immediate thought is that this is probably cruising towards being a shit show. But I still took a good look at it anyway because I want to give it a fair shake. Because you never know, maybe they really, really thought all of this out. But in the end, it turns out the Comic-Con cruise is probably a bad idea. Let me get this out of the way first. I'm not a fan of cringe culture. I believe you can enjoy whatever you want to enjoy so long as it's not hurting anyone else. However, I do have to admit, there is a certain type of audience that frequents conventions enough to be interested in something like this. That audience does include myself, but there are plenty of, let's just say there are plenty of people who tend to struggle with social interaction. And you want to fill a boat with all of these people and sail them to Cozumel. Imagine being on your vacation, relaxing on the beach of this Mexican island, when the Comic-Con Goon Cruise shows up and all of its inhabitants begin to descend upon you. But that's not really the issue here. The people on this cruise have just as much of a right to take a vacation as anyone else does. The bigger problem is actually on the cruise itself. So let's take a look around the website and see exactly what this convention entails. Okay, so for the actual convention itself, we're going to start with the guests. Before I get into this, I want to say first and foremost that I don't mean to be insulting to any of these people. I know everything that they're in is someone's favorite thing, but my lord, this guest list is underwhelming. Also, I know I'm not listing the entirety of these actors' careers. I mostly just want to point out the stuff that they were in that would specifically justify them to be at a Comic-Con. So it's hosted by Felicia Day, whatever that means. Which, Felicia Day, she's in MST3K. She's also in Supernatural. She does a bunch of voice acting. Warwick Davis, he's been in a bunch of Star Wars stuff. He was an Ewok in Return of the Jedi. He played a couple aliens in Phantom Menace. He was also in Harry Potter. He was also the lead in the Leprechaun movies. Honest to God, this might be the most interesting person here. George Takei is probably the most famous person here, even if he isn't an incredibly relevant actor at this point. Obviously, they're using him to really push this thing because he was the one that did the video and the Q&A. Ernie Hudson, he's mostly known for being in Ghostbusters, the first one. You know, the one that people actually like. Also, I love this part at the end. When he's not working, Hudson likes to spend his time relaxing at home with his wife and family and remains committed to developing all facets of his creativity, including his writing. Did they pull this off his fucking LinkedIn page? Mary McDonnell, like the others, have been in a bunch of stuff. The reason she's here, though, is probably because she was in Battlestar Galactica. Michael Trucco, same thing. He was in Battlestar Galactica. Amy Jo Johnson. Okay, this is what I meant when I said everyone here probably means something to someone. You probably don't give a shit about her, but I do, and this is probably actually the only person here I do care about, because she was Kimberly in Power Rangers. Raymond Lee, he was in Top Gun Maverick and Quantum Leap, as well as some other TV stuff. Scott Grimes, he's been in a bunch of stuff that Comic-Con attendees would actually care about. A bunch of old horror stuff, like Twilight Zone. He was also in Star Trek. Greg Grunberg, apparently they just gave up on writing descriptions by the time they got to him. It just says he was in stuff and then gives links to his epilepsy support websites. Yeah, he was in Star Wars. What did he do? Fucking figure it out. I'll spoil it. He was Snap. He was Snap in Star Wars. Virginia Gardner, she was in Runaways. She was also in some horror stuff. And finally, Grace Caroline Curie, whose big thing was Shazam 2. Co-starring, these are just more guests, but I guess Comic-Con deems them less important, so they put them in a different section. Okay, so this Rob Perlman guy, he works in Hollywood, but he also seems to write elementary and what I can only very generously call middle grade tie-in books for movies, as well as some original books that have titles that make me want to throw up. Hey, they have the voice of Porky Pig. Honey, you can't be Porky Pig, you're Jewish. Alright. There's a Hollywood makeup artist, there's some professional cosplayers. Yeah, so, not really anyone mind-blowing is showing up. Oh, what, Will Smith will show up to San Diego Comic-Con to promote Suicide Squad, but you couldn't convince him to be trapped in the middle of the ocean for 4 days with a bunch of fucking nerds? Wow, what a stickler. Also, were these descriptions just copy-pasted from whatever official website or PR manager they could get a hold of? Because the format varies like wildly. Like, some of them barely say anything. Some of them are so detailed that it shows the years that the shows they were in aired and when they went into syndication. Okay, so this is the blog post for the special video and Q&A from George Takei. George Takei, known as Sulu on Star Trek, is joining the Comic-Con Cruise 2025. Alright, and they've got a video here of him. Let's watch.
Hello, I'm George Takei. Join me for the inaugural sailing of San Diego Comic-Con The Cruise. This is an extraordinary experience like no other, where you can immerse yourself in the world of pop culture like never before. Rub shoulders with your favorite stars, artists, writers, and more, and experience a vibrant community of the most passionate fans from across the globe. The ultimate fan adventure takes place on the Royal Caribbean's Serenade of the Seas, sailing from Tampa, Florida to Cozumel, Mexico, from February 5th to February 9th, 2025. Don't miss out on this incredible journey into the heart of fandom.
Holy fuck. This somehow simultaneously is incredibly boring, yet is the most batshit thing I've ever seen. Also, this Q&A, like, what are you most looking forward to on Comic-Con The Cruise? I'm looking forward to presenting An Evening with George Takei on Comic-Con The Cruise. This gives me a chance to share my childhood experiences during World War II and reflect on my career as an actor who once navigated the cosmos as Sulu on the original Star Trek. It's a unique opportunity for me to connect with fans on a personal level and explore the narrative that shapes our world, both on and off screen. Yeah, I'm sure that's what I'm sure you asked him a question and he said exactly that, word for word. I'm sure this isn't just fucking PR guy that sent in answers. Is there anyone in particular that you are looking forward to meeting on board Comic-Con The Cruise? I was a recurring character in the TV series Heroes. I'm sorry, the entire sentence is an actual answer to the question, but just opening with that makes it sound senile. Like, hey, George Takei, who are you looking forward to meeting? I'm on Star Trek. I was a recurring character on the TV show Heroes, and it's exciting for me to be on a cruise together with Greg Grunberg, who was a cast member on the beloved show that aired on NBC from 2006 to 2010. It will be a fun reunion. This is one of the benefits of Comic-Con The Cruise. It is a mini convention at sea where fans can reminisce about their favorite series and enjoy the company of actors who portrayed their favorite characters. Yeah, George, I'm sure Gulia can't wait to get intimate with all of the Comic-Con attendees. This whole thing reads like the questions were written by a PR person from Comic-Con, and then the answers were written by a PR person from Comic-Con, and then they just showed it to George Takei, and they were like, hey, George Takei, is it okay if we publish this? And he was like, I was a recurring character on the TV show Heroes that shared on NBC from 2006 to 2010. Okay, so here's the Artist Alley, and this is where I have to start explaining shit for people who don't go to conventions. So, a convention, in its most basic form, can pretty much be broken up into 4 parts. There are panels, there's the exhibit hall, sometimes referred to as the vendor hall or the vendor floor, there's the Artist Alley, and then there's just the extra stuff. And the extra stuff is usually just whatever unique thing the convention is trying to have. Like Anime Expo holds official after parties and kind of pseudo raves with guest DJs. And Long Beach Comic Con sucks so bad that they have a whole ass other convention just plopped down literally in the middle of it. Like the entirety of Space Expo is literally located dead center in the middle of the exhibit hall of Long Beach Comic Con. So the extra stuff for this is, well, it's a fucking cruise ship going to Mexico. And we'll get to the amenities of that in a bit. They do have panels lined up with most of the guests. I'm sure it will be like smaller conventions where there's only one panel room, so there's just one panel ever going on at a time. I'm just theorizing, though, because it's a smaller venue, you know, because it's on a boat in the middle of the ocean. So what about the other 2 aspects, the Artist Alley and the exhibit hall? So the exhibit hall is pretty much the biggest thing at every convention. That's like the thing that people go for. And the panels and the guests and the extra stuff tends to just be extras on top to help convince people to go to your convention over another one. So let's look at this Artist Alley. Now, Artist Alley at conventions is normally essentially a second exhibit hall meant for artists to sell their art. The exhibit hall is the part of the convention that everybody thinks about when they think about conventions, because it's the area with all the vendor booths, and that's where everyone spends a majority of their time, because we all like spending our money on tat. See, Artist Alley is kind of the same thing, Artist Alley is usually set up exactly like the exhibit hall. In many smaller conventions, it's actually in the same room and shares floor space with the exhibit hall. However, the spaces for vendors in Artist Alley are usually much cheaper. And that's because it's meant for small independent artists to be able to set up and sell at the convention. And it's also pretty well known that selling in Artist Alley essentially means you will not be making as many sales as in the exhibit hall. Many guests will just ignore Artist Alley, or they will just walk through and go, oh, that's cool, and then continue on their way to the official Star Wars booth to go wait in a 6-hour-long line to get an exclusive Glup Shido pop figure. So, with all of that, let's take a look at this. So, looking at this Artist Alley page, you might not be able to immediately tell what's a little odd from it. I'll give you a hint. It's on the same web page as the guest list. Did you spot it? Yeah. Some of you might actually recognize these people's names, and that's because these are all industry artists. They actually have worked professionally for companies like Marvel and DC. This isn't a problem because these are obviously meant to just be more guests, but the site is listing it as their Artist Alley. Will they be selling stuff? Who knows, maybe. I imagine as artists they might want to take stuff to sell because they're artists, but I don't even know if they would be allowed to. Why? Because I don't think it's that kind of convention, which leads me into the matter of the exhibit hall. Okay, so how do we get a convention exhibit hall onto a cruise ship? How do we convince vendors to go on this thing? Where on the ship can we make space for convention goers to actually buy merchandise and, oh, I don't know, comic books at this comic book convention?
That's the neat thing. You don't.
Yeah, there's no vendor area. So basically this whole convention is banking off of two things: their guests and the fact that they're calling it a convention, so hopefully people will just show up because of that. Because honestly, for the type of crowds that conventions usually bring in, I don't think the ports of call are really a draw at all. So let's look at the ship itself and see what else there is to do. The convention is holding a sci-fi night and a cosplay night, but other than that, it's just standard cruise ship stuff. So bars, restaurants, there's a spa, pool, sports courts. There's an arcade. That looks fun. There's like a board gaming room. There's a stage for live shows, but I don't know what shows they would be running during this. I imagine the convention might want that stage for something. Oh, here's some music groups. Okay, so here's some musicians that are going to be performing there. Brian Wilk and Brad Huron, dueling piano players. Are these two guys anyone? Is this just what they do? Do you guys know who these people are? Brian Wilk began playing piano as early as he could reach the keyboard. When he couldn't sleep, his parents played Midnight Rider in his dark nursery. When he was old enough to drive, he hit the open road like a bat out of hell. Pursuing a life of music, he began performing with the comedy sports improv troupe. He was born to be wild and hell-bent for leather. He revved up his music career and kept heading out to the highway to share his love of music with his new audience in new places around the country.
Boomer! We got a boomer! Boomer!
The action figures. Huh? Their website is blocked on Tor for whatever reason, so we're gonna have to bring them up on a different web browser. The Ultimate Celebrity Comic-Con Cover Band. Oh my god. Oh, Amy Jo Johnson, Michael Chiklis, Kevin Smith?
We are the Action Figures, a group of celebrities who banded together to rock. I'm Greg Grunberg. I'm an actor, I'm also a drummer, and I'm an action figure. And so are a lot of my friends, like this guy. And this guy, this girl, this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy. We're more than a celebrity cover band. We're a party band that's full of surprises and packed with plenty of star power.
I've loved you on that show.
Oh man, that sounds like a boomer.
The Action Figures. Coming to a Comic-Con, corporate event, or casino?
Casino? Corporate event? Hey, yeah, guys, let's get the fucking action figures to come out here and play for our next budget meeting. The action figures has the experience and agility to pull from their extensive song library and always encourages last-minute Comic-Con special guests to get up and join them in the fun. Each booking comes with a minimum of 4 celebrities, dependent on budget and schedules, plus the baddest backing band in the land. Okay, so after all this, and we can see the entirety of what this entails, how much does it cost? Well, the most expensive room is about $5,600, and the cheapest is $990. For a cruise ship, I think that's pretty normal. There are certainly cheap cruises, and definitely more expensive ones. And this is also the cost for one person. And obviously, on top of that, it doesn't include airfare to get to Florida, or your hotel that you'll need before the cruise, since usually you need to arrive to your port of call the day before, just to make sure you're there early enough on your actual sail date to board the next morning. So let's see what you do and do not get with your ticket. Also, to say on top here, if you sailed with Royal Caribbean and you have a rewards points account with them, you can't use them on this cruise. It says there's a possibility of earning, but you can't get any of your standard perks or rewards while on this thing. Okay, so this is what you get with your ticket. Round trip from Tampa. All performances, interviews, parties, and events presented on the cruise. This does not include special artist-hosted events, which require sign-up and/or a fee. So you don't even have access to the entirety of the convention. There are going to be things that you'd have to pay extra for. All meals in the included dining. It features breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks in the Windjammer Cafe, breakfast, brunch, dinner, okay. Food and other included dining venues. This is normal stuff for cruise ships. Usually you have very specific, this is what you can eat for free. And then this stuff you have to pay for. Part of the included dining experience, non-bottled beverages, i.e. coffee, juices, and teas, are provided without charge. Notice something's missing there. We'll get to that. Recreation facilities such as the fitness center, and I'm sure that's gonna be getting a lot of mileage. Pools, hot tubs, mini golf, a rock climbing wall, basketball court, jogging track. In-room TV with movies, excluding the pay-per-view movies. Full service room cleaning, I'd fucking hope. Your price does not include, okay, air and ground transportation, to and from the pier in Tampa, Florida, obviously. Ground transportation in ports of call, so basically, once you're in Cozumel, you better fucking figure out how you're getting to and from the ship. Pre and post cruise lodging, again, hotels, obviously. Dining in the specialty restaurants, personal expenditure purchases such as photos, souvenirs, excursions, spa services. Okay, right here. Alcoholic and carbonated beverages, specialty coffees. Yep. You don't get soda with your dining. You can get an Appy Juice, but if you want a Dr. Pepper, you better pay up. Pay-per-view, the special artist stuff. Gambling. Casino? Holy fuck. Guys, I've cracked this wide open. Someone, somewhere, in some corporate boardroom is a goddamn genius. Hey guys, you know those nerds that love conventions? You know how they show up to Comic-Con and Anime Expo every year with thousands of dollars in their pocket that they're just ready to blow on whatever crap they find on the vendor floor? You know all of those nerds who sit at home during their free time obsessively playing gacha games, who have developed a gambling addiction within the comforts of their own home? What if we somehow managed to trap them in the middle of the ocean for 4 days, under the guise of a half-assed convention, then take away the artist alley and vendor floor, so the one place they have to dump all of that money is the fucking casino? It's genius. Now, I only say this half-jokingly, because I'm sure that's not the actual real reason this idea came to be, but it sure as shit is convenient for Royal Caribbean that it worked out this way. I would also like to add that casinos are pretty normal on a lot of cruise ships. This is just really fucking funny. Also, it's called San Diego Comic-Con The Cruise. Why the fuck is it leaving out of Florida and not, San Diego? And my final note I want to add about all of this is something that I've been saying over and over again over the course of this entire video. If you go to San Diego Comic-Con and you aren't having fun, you can walk out of the convention center and go explore San Diego. San Diego is the best city to visit in California. Go check out Little Italy and have the best pizza of your entire life. Go look at the Navy ships that are now museums. If you're at Anime Expo and you're miserable, head into Little Tokyo. Visit the retro gaming stores or the cosplay stores or the really cool bars and clubs. If you're at Long Beach Comic Con and you realize it fucking sucks, go down the street to the Aquarium of the Pacific. If you're on the Comic Con cruise and you aren't enjoying the convention, guess what? You can't fucking leave. You're stuck in the middle of the ocean with nothing to do but go fucking gamble.
Aw, dang it.
So all in all, as a frequenter of conventions, I would not recommend going on this thing. As a convention, it looks underwhelming, and I feel like all of the cruise stuff might just be neutered because a lot of the space is going to be converted for the convention. And I didn't even mention how both cruise ships and conventions are breeding grounds for diseases. I mean, con flu is something that con goers know about and expect to come home with every time they go to a convention. So I cannot imagine trying to combine that with the petri dish of diseases that cruises tend to be. It's an idea that feels like they thought, we can take the best part of conventions and the best part of being on a cruise and combine them, when really it's just taking the part of both of those that suck and putting them together. The only thing that gives me an inkling of hope for this thing is that it's being put on by the same organization that puts on the Star Trek cruise. I believe they're in their 3rd or 4th year of running that, and shit hasn't gone sideways yet. But even though I don't expect a Poop Cruise 2.0 level disaster from this thing, I am very interested to hear some horror stories of the actual convention part when this thing finally arrives back home.